Next stop on our journey to environmental science merit badge earnership. We're going to Termstown, baby! Yes! Starting with population. That is a group of organisms in an area, but on a large scale. So it is a group of the same species in a large area. Community is a smaller version of that, if you will, if you catch my drift. It is a group of organisms in a certain ecosystem, say rather a forest, other than an entire system of forests like a population. Now, ecosystem, that is a group of organisms and the environment in which they live considered together. It is flora and fauna working together in a large system. That's the ecosystem. The larger scale is the biosphere. It's a lot of ecosystems working in tandem with one another in a similar area. So it's the big boy version of the ecosystem. In a niche, that is a role an organism plays in its environment, what a certain species does to survive or contribute in its ecosystem. Moving on to symbiosis. Symbiosis means the mutually beneficial relationship between animals. We see this in all sorts of environments where one animal and another animal work together in harmony for other ends that benefit them both. More definitions. Habitat. Think home, that's a place that a species lives in its environment, pretty standard for the same species across the environments in which they live. It's a great way to study them. Conservation, think the outdoor code, is the efforts that we go through to protect the environment. Threatened species, that is the first step that a species goes into before becoming an endangered species. Not that we're too worried, but we're still watching it, making sure that their population doesn't dwindle to the point of endangered. What's endangered? I'm gonna tell you. Those are species like the panda, the California condor, the Galapagos tortoise, species that are dwindling so fast that they're about to be extinct, and we're really trying to protect them from going extinct. Now, extinction, they're dead. They're not coming back, and we have to get over it. All those creatures, they're gone. Think the dodo, think the dinosaurs, think a lot of salamanders, they're gone. Now, pollution prevention. Those are the things that we do to prevent pollution. It's pretty standard. Think the Clean Air Act, think the Clean Water Act. Some more terms. Brownfield. I know it sounds disgusting because it is. It is a previous construction site or a working site that we've abandoned and is now considered an environmental hazard zone. The ozone, you may have heard of that. There's two types of it. There's tropospheric, which is down here, and stratospheric, which is up there. It is an O3 molecule, and a lot of it, might I add, that when up there is good for us because it helps protect against UV radiation from the sun. And when it's down here, it's actually getting in our lungs and hurting us. So the EPA is actually looking to regulate the tropospheric ozone that we have in our environment and regulate the stratospheric ozone that we want to protect. A watershed is a landmass that directs water flow to certain areas. Pretty cool? The airshed is kind of different, but not really. It is the same geographical area with the same airflow above it. So the airflow has similar air flowing through it and is exposed to a lot of the same things. So if you have a power plant or an industrial complex underneath the same airshed, you're going to experience a lot of pollution because that air is exposed to all of it. A non-point source is essentially a point of pollution. Think like cows are a non-point source of pollution for a river that's nearby because they're always pooping in it and they're always farting. That's the methane. Also, bad for the ozone. Now, a hybrid vehicle, I'm sure we've seen the Priuses all around. That's a vehicle that utilizes both gasoline, like fossil fuels, and electricity. Now, the funny thing about hybrid vehicles are, in the long run, it's good, but in the short term, when we're harvesting the lithium-ion batteries needed for the hybrid vehicle, it's actually doing a lot worse for the environment because of strip mining. So if you want to buy a hybrid vehicle because you think it's going to be saving the environment, maybe reconsider until we've actually refined the hybrid vehicle until what we need it to be in the future. A fuel cell, last but not least, a fuel cell emits an electrical current based on a chemical reaction instead of the combustion of fossil fuels. It's really cool. Now, this is kind of complicated. Let me just give you the rundown of how this works. You've got hydrogen going in and a little bit of oxygen going in into an anode and a cathode. You don't really know how this works. This is an electricity merit badge. It's not that big of a deal. All you need to know is that this chemical reaction produces water vapor that then goes in to power the battery moving your car. It's a super cool innovation.